recipe with some amazing fresh berries from my fruit and veg family at Simon George & Sons. So we've got some beautiful local strawberries from the Sunshine Coast. They're really nice and sweet and in season at the moment. We've got some blueberries from Betty Blues, which is also Queensland. And the raspberries are from Caboolture, Queensland for the win. So what I'm going to be making with these berries today is a magical berry cheesecake with a delicious toasted coconut cookie base. This recipe has a few steps, so I'm going to start with the cookie base, and then I'm going to make a berry jelly to set in layers, and then I'm going to make the cheesecake so we can layer it to assemble and garnish. So let's go through the ingredients. To make the cookie base, you will need 125 grams of caster sugar, 125 grams of brown sugar, 125 grams of butter. I just use unsalted butter, 1 egg, 3 grams of baking powder, 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of toasted coconut. So I'm using my KitchenAid with the paddle attachment. First we're going to combine the sugar and the butter, and we're going to cream them. Next I'm going to add the egg. And then I'll just dip the baking powder into the flour and add the flour. Then we turn it on to a low speed, and I'm going to preheat my oven to 175 degrees. Okay, last ingredient is the toasted coconut. And we only want to mix that till it's just combined. Now I have some baking tins. They're just a springform tin that I've lined with baking paper. This one is going to be the base. We're just going to press the cookie dough into the bottom of it. So just divide the mix between the two trays and then press it into the base. And then I'm just going to put these in the oven to bake until they're a light golden brown. Okay, so for step 2, we're going to make the berry jelly layers. I've decided to do a raspberry layer and a blueberry layer. For that, I've blended 2 punnets, so 250 grams of fresh raspberries with 100 ml of water, 50 grams of sugar, and then 3 grams of agar-agar, 5 grams of vanilla, and then 1 punnet of fresh raspberries. And then the recipe is the same for the blueberry layer. So I've blended 2 punnets or 250 grams of blueberries with 100 ml of water, and I've scaled out 50 grams of sugar and then 3 grams of agar-agar powder, 5 grams of vanilla. So what I've done to set these layers in is I've just lined my baking tins with Glad wrap, and now we're going to boil the fruit puree, the sugar, the agar and the vanilla bean paste over on the stove, so that will set it. We'll pour it into the tin, and then I'll tip the berries in so that it sets, and you've got jelly and fresh berries in a layer. Okay, so we're going to put the raspberry puree and water in the pot, and we're just going to bring it to the boil. Next I'm going to mix the sugar and the agar powder together. Now we mix this with the sugar before we add it to the puree, just to prevent any lumps forming when we boil it. Then I'm going to add a spoon of vanilla bean paste to the liquid. Okay, so we just wait for it to come to the boil. As you can see, the raspberries are a beautiful pink colour. That's what we want, nice and fresh. Now it's almost come to the boil. Just going to slowly add the sugar and the agar powder. and mix while you're adding. So this is just a thickening agent for the jelly. So you want it to come to the boil now, and then you give it a good minute or two actually boiling with bubbles. And once the agars come to the boil, you just need to pour it into the pan to set. It will set quite fast, but you also need to set it in the fridge. So we're going to pour it into the pan, we're going to add the berries, and then we're going to put it in the fridge to set. Okay, now we're just going to assemble the jelly layer. So I'm going to take the beautiful ripe fresh berries and I'm going to put them into the pan. And then I'm going to pour my jelly over the top. So you've got a little bit of flexibility here before the agar sets. If you want to reposition some of your berries, make sure they're all coated with jelly. And then we're just going to put it in the fridge and do the same for the blueberry. So we've just done the same and boiled the agar with the blueberries. And we're going to make the jelly layer. I'm going to use the blueberries, put them in the tin, and then pour the jelly over the top. Just make sure that the blueberries are all coated in jelly, and then we're going to put it in the fridge to set. Okay, for the next step we're going to make the cheesecake, for which I'm using the strawberries. So I've quartered some strawberries, about 200 grams, and I'm going to macerate them. Now the way I do that, I cut them up, I just add some sugar, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of rose water. It's totally up to you whether you add the rose water or not. I really like the flavour. And then a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste. Now I'm just going to mix that up. And the sugar releases the natural juices in the strawberries. So I'm going to set it aside while I start making my cheesecake. Okay, so with the KitchenAid mixer, you need powder taffy. And in goes my sugar first, and then my cream cheese. So I'm just going to mix that on a low speed until it's soft. Next up we're going to need our 10 grams of gelatin. If you're just using gelatin powder at home, I'd recommend just pouring a little bit of boiling water in there to dissolve it. Okay, then I'm going to stuff the mixer, scrape down the sides of the bowl. We just don't want any lumps in our cheesecake. Okay, back to the strawberries. I'm just going to mix these up quickly. Then I'm going to blend them. While I'm blending this, I'm going to add my gelatin. And then blend that up. And then that's going to go straight into the mixer. Okay, I'm going to quickly scrape it down. And then we're just going to give it a really good mix so it's fully combined. Okay, so I'm going to take it off now, and you can see the strawberries mixed in perfectly, and now I'm going to fold in the whipped cream. So 375 grams of whipped cream, and we're just folding off the mixer by hand. This is just to ensure that you don't split your cheesecake after all that work. Okay, then we're just going to set it aside, wait for our jelly to set, and once it's ready, we'll layer it. I've got all my layers, and I'm going to add all my cheesecake so they set. So the raspberries and blueberries set perfectly, and then I'm going to pipe the cheesecake layer over the top of the biscuit base, and then over the top of the raspberry jelly, and then over the top of the blueberry jelly. And then the other biscuit base will be the top. Once they're all set, I'm going to assemble them. So here I have disposable paper, which I'm going to fill with the strawberry cheesecake. So start in the middle and go all the way around to the outside so we have an even layer. Now it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm still going to go back over it with my palette knife. And then I'm going to let them set in the refrigerator and stand by for assembly.